talking basketball. They're fucking dumb as shit. They talk about basketball, but they will make dumb ass jokes.
That's all the great sportscasters you picture with like a scotch, though, you know?
Oh, Pat Summerall was like hammered half the time he did his show. There's a great story. He's dead now, God bless him. But there's a great story where the night before a game, he got caught at what is now Trump Plaza in the old Plaza Hotel, trying to fit a horse from the horse carriage guys that take around the New Central Park into the elevator at the Plaza Hotel. That's when they knew you might have had too much to drink.
That's like Schwarzenegger True Lies level drunkenness. I respect it.
I love that. I love Summerall
great.
just being like, I gotta listen. I want to make the game early. I want to ride the horse straight to the Meadowlands.
Sir, the horse cannot go to the club level.
It's cool. He's with me. Check the list again.
Summerall seemed like a cool dude, though, right? He was a good guy.
He was great.
Oh,
It just caught up with him. I mean, he passed away, I think, a little early because of it. So,
Yeah. What? When you were early, so you were like 97 on ESPN, right?
November '97.
Unbelievable. That's like being an SNL original cast member. It really is.
Well, I always say I think I missed it by like by a few years. Like the guys that were really there embedded were there probably in the late '80s, early '90s. Like Dan, Keith,
Sure.
Stu, Rich, Bob Lee, and then
Right.
I came in like right after that.
Right. The second
fun.
wave. Yeah. It's like, so it's not the original cast. You're on the like the Adam Sandler cast. The Farley.
I'd be more like the Phil Hartman.
Yes.
Kevin Nealon. By the way, I was actually a page on Saturday Night Live in NBC while those guys were doing the show.
Wow.
John Lovitz. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh my God.
We can get into all this if you want.
Let's do it, man.
Get
Yeah.
into it. Page on
Let's do it.
SNL. What was
All right.
Any good memories of any of the cast members?
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, there's a great story, Sam. You'll love this as a Knicks fan. I have a great Knicks story about a Knicks player who was never great, but you will recognize. It's tremendous.
This could be anybody.
Yeah. Anyone who's played for the Knicks in the last 30 years, except for Melo, I guess. All right. So should we get rolling here? Should we just go to the official?
I've been recording. Are you not?
You're recording? Yeah, we can just roll into it. I mean,
Yeah,
we're gonna come back and do the intro and add anyway. So we might as well just get into the convo. Right. Whenever you're ready, Trey, we're ready to roll. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pod Don't Lie with Sam and Stav. We are here. The season's creeping up on us, but not a lot of NBA news has happened in the last week or so since Thanksgiving, since our Patreon mailbag. So we decided it's time to have a fun little interview episode with a very special guest. You know him, you love him. One of our favorite ESPN personalities, Trey Wingo, we're lucky enough to have on the show. So thank you for being here, Trey.
Oh, Stav, pleasure to meet you. Always good to talk to my friend Sam. This is the cool thing about having kids that are adults. They make you cooler. Like the reason I got into Sam was my son, who's 25, and his friend who's 25. Like, you got to check out this comedian, Sam Morrill. So they helped me like up my status. So
I love it.
Well, you up my status in my friend group, Trey. I mean, I didn't have one friend who wasn't like Trey Wingo. So.
Yeah.
Then you have terrible friends.
I'm trying to get my mom into edibles this year. That's what I'm trying to do for Christmas.
Just tell her it'll ease the pain. That's all you
That's
gotta
right.
do.
Yeah,
Make you feel better. It'll make you feel better.
It's an anti-inflammatory, Ma.
Exactly. Helps with circulation.
That's right.
Trey started a new podcast. It's Half Forgotten Sports is what it's called, right? Half Forgotten History.
Half Forgotten History. Half Forgotten History. Yeah, we basically talk with a lot of Hall of Famers and some other big players in the NFL in the first season. Brought to you by Maker's Mark, by the way. I don't know if you can tell.
There we
Brought to you by
go.
Maker's Mark. So cheers to my friends at Maker's Mark, as well as
Cheers.
State Farm and McDonald's. But we just tell great stories about some of the great moments that you might remember in football, but like what really happened behind the scenes is pretty cool. I think you're gonna like it. It drops December 2nd.
This is a much bigger profile show than ours. He's brought by McDonald's and Maker's Mark. We are sponsored by a marijuana substitute called Cushy.
Yeah, that's right. Cushy Dreams,
Listen,
baby.
whatever.
Smoke your CBD.
Whatever pays the bills. That's my philosophy.
And drinking an old fashioned, classy, which is like what we say. We were talking about this before, but that's what you want to picture every great sportscaster is with, like an old fashioned.
Yeah.
Well, look, I don't know when you can go to bars again. Don't you hate the skinny, tall glasses they give you? The really tall. No, a good cocktail. You need to feel the weight in your hand, right? It's not like a test tube that grew. That's not what we're looking for here. You need something that sits well in the palm of your hand.
You want it to feel like a gun. You want it to be like, oh my God, that's heavy.
Well, to be fair, if you get loaded, either way, there's a problem. So that analogy works. I think that analogy works.
I'm with you. I hate when they bring in a Manhattan in a martini glass. It's so not representative. No, a good rocks glass, you should feel it in your hand, and it should take. You shouldn't hold it like this. You gotta be able to grab it. Yes. We
can get into the we can get into the analytics of that later if you want.
Yeah. I'm with you. So fat and short. That's what I'd like. That's my Sam. I don't know how you feel about the tall. He's disparaging both your body types. Actually, I'm with you. When it comes to the glasses, make them fat and short.
There you go.
Anyway, Trey, thank you so much for being here, man. We have so much to ask you. So usually this is a kind of podcast where neither I nor Sam know what we're talking about, and we have absolutely zero expertise. So it's fun to have somebody who's actually in the business, knows what he's talking about, and can give us some fun stories about just being around real deal, the sports business. So I don't know, Sam, what should we ask first? Because I want to know
early days Sportscenter. Like I want to know how you got the gig, like what the audition process was like. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, that was weird. Okay, that was weird because I was working. First of all, I grew up in Connecticut, so I'm one of the few guys that was like, oh, it would be cool to live in Connecticut. Like most people
hilarious.
that came to ESPN.
You're like, Bristol? Really? It's my lucky day.
Yeah.
I've had my eye on a condo in Bristol since I was in middle school.
I mean, if I could get to Windsor Locks. Oh my God. But it's true. Like so many people come and they see the place and they're like, oh, I thought it was an actual town. No, Bristol it's bucolic, I guess is a nice way to put it. But
right.
I knew what the deal was. So how I got here was kind of funky. I was actually working in St. Louis. And I just actually gotten the gig in like the early 90s. And I came back from doing a story about, I don't know, a high school track star or something. And I got before the internet and email, there was a little note on my little notepad that said, call Al Jaffe. And it was a 203 number. Well, I'm from Connecticut. I grew up in Greenwich. I'm sorry, Greenwich. And I was like, 203, that's Connecticut. What's going on there? So as I dialed the number, I realized, oh my God, this is like the guy who hires people for ESPN. His name is Al Jaffe. And I don't know how he heard of me because I never sent a tape.
Wow.
I never sent in a resume, anything like that. So somebody else must have been coming through St. Louis and seen something, or someone else thought maybe it was another station in St. Louis that was trying to get me out of town. I don't know. I have no idea.
The citizens of St. Louis all pitched in and wrote you a great cover letter to get you out.
I was hoping it was more like, we can't compete with that guy from another station, so let's get him out of. But you're probably more accurate, Stav. You're probably more accurate.
Most discoveries in Missouri is like, oh my God, I could do meth in that dumpster. You were one of the few positive discoveries.
Yeah, so I called him up and he's like, we want to bring you up. And this was literally 6 months into being in St. Louis, but They said, are you under contract? I'm like, yeah, I'm under contract. He goes, well, you have to have your station to agree so we won't be sued for tortious interference. I was like, okay. And I was thinking, I'm not the main sports guy. I'm just one of the guys in the stable here. And my station was like, oh, that's cool for you. No, we can't let you out. I was like,
what? That's brutal.
Yeah, so I had to say no, and then they called again in a few years, and I said, screw it, I'm going, and I came up and did the audition, and that was in the spring of '97.
You had to wait a few years after that. Oh, my God.
Holy shit.
Yeah, well, life got on the way. I mean, we had kids, and we didn't want to move at that point, so, but at that point, it was like I was at the end of my contract. I was close to the end of my contract. I'm like, you guys can do what you want. If they offer me a job, I'm leaving, so screw it.
Wow.
And that's what happened. We moved up here in November of '97.
Wow. That first story you have to do back from them not letting you out of your contract, you must have been really going through the motion. You're probably hammered when you're doing it. You're like, the Cardinals won or they lost. Who fucking knows?
I don't know. I mean, somebody scored a run. The game was over. Jim rolled the tape. No.
Speaking of the St. Louis Blues, some people hold on to contracts a little too hard around here. But the first, like, going from local news to ESPN must have been insane.
Well, look, I like literally had one goal when this started. I thought it would be cool to work at ESPN. And, I'd run into a bunch of guys from ESPN that had come through St. Louis at the time to do games and all that kind of stuff. And, Boomer, what?
Yeah.
He was in there a lot. I'll never forget this, though. Like, one of the first weeks at ESPN, by the way, all good stories start with meeting someone in a bathroom, right? I mean, that's just standard operating.
Right, yeah.
Or bad
So we're
stories
like the
if you're
third-
Larry Craig.
Well, exactly. Well, there was no under the door handle. Like that. But, so I walked in and he's in there and I said, hey, Boom, Trey Wingo, I've met you in St. Louis. And he remembered. He's like, yeah, you were the guy that told me to try the cheddar Smokies in the Busch Stadium clubhouse. Like, oh my God, yes.
Oh my God.
Like, Boom was the best, man. Like his mother lived in Greenwich for a while. So we all both pretended like we were from Greenwich, and it was great. No, Boom was like, he's still the best. He's still the best.
I love that. And that's a great lesson to anybody aspiring in any field. If there's a powerful fat man in your field, tell him where to get a good snack. Because that's how I got my first gig opening for Robert Kelly. I literally took him to get Korean barbecue. I was doing a 5-minute guest spot at Magooby's Joke House in Baltimore, and I took the headliner to get Korean barbecue, and that launched my career.
Wait. Hold on a minute. You played Magooby's?
I wanted to wait 10 minutes in before I started bragging, Trey. What can I say?
I can't compete with that. I can't.
So being on that rotation, like, did you feel pressure? Because ESPN was like so cool to me. Like Sportscenter, like I grew up on you and Rich and Stu Scott and all those guys, and like it was like funny without trying to be funny. I thought you guys were. It was cool in the way like early SNL was cool to me.
It was. Look, I mean, like I watched all these guys. I wanted to be as good as these guys. So that was really great. I tell you a funny story though, because you always want to, you sort of work your way into it. You know what I mean? Like I started on ESPN News, and then every once in a while you get the overnight show on a Friday or Saturday, because no one wanted to do the 1 a.m. show on Friday or Saturday.
Right.
Because, you're getting out of there at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. But back in those days, if you got on the Monday through or Sunday through Thursday overnight show, that thing ran all morning. It ran all afternoon. Like you would do the show at 1 o'clock and do fixes, and that would be on the air till 1 o'clock the next day. So everyone would see you. So those were the shows. Like if I could get on that, people would see me. And like, so I got to tell the story. Like one of my first 1 a.m. shows was a Thursday after the first round of the PGA, the TPC, the Players Championship down at Sawgrass. And the year before, John Daly had gotten just hammered and, tore up his condo. And it really went south in a hurry. That was his first, like, I got to get my life together.
Yes.
So he came back and he'd gotten his life together. And I was doing the intro that would run all night long on the Thursday night, Friday morning Sportscenter. So I wrote this poignant lead. I'm like, I'm going to win a freaking Pulitzer for this. The words are just pouring out of the keyboard. And I wrote, it was such a poignant reminder 1 year later, after such a low point in his life, right before he teed off at the first round of the Players Championship, John Daly received this coin that you get from AA, signifying 1 year of alcohol-free living. I'm like, this is amazing. For whatever reason, it came out of my mouth right before he teed off. John Daly received this coin signifying 1 year of free alcohol. I thought I was done. Like, I'm done. You could see the blood run out of my face. And the producer gets in my ear and says, yeah, we're going to need to fix that for the re-air.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Crushed. I was crushed.
Thank God there was no Twitter, because you would have gone viral.
Oh, done. Like social media, forget it. YouTube, done. They were doing, like, when we had our 25th anniversary or 40, I don't know what it was, a few years ago. They brought up that clip, and I was like, yeah, that was a bad one. Just when I thought I was there.
That's right. Oh, my God. Are there any other moments like that where you're like, thank God there was no social media?
Oh, there's so many of them. Like, you can find this one, like Steve Levy, who's now doing Monday Night Football, by the way, and is doing a great job. And I've known Steve forever. You know, he tried to say he's got a bulging disc in his neck, and disc did not come out. And you can just see him. He's trying to get through this injury report. You can still find it on YouTube, and he's dying laughing. He's doing this show with Olbermann at the time. He's dying laughing. It's just like it was bad.
He got a job off.
A ton of those.
He got a phone call from Al Jaffe at Pornhub. He was like, "Hey, I've seen your work. You're fantastic."
This is how long ago that was. That was pre-internet porn. That's how long ago.
Wow.
This was. Wow. Yeah. Crazy times.
I can't even imagine. I caught just the tail end of that era, where you have to look for your dad's old porno tapes labeled something else.
I guess I'll watch my
exercise videos.
Yeah. Literally, I'm not even fucking around. There was one called Barney. That's how my immigrant.
I'm out. I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know about your dad's furry passion. Don't need it. Don't want it.
It's just a nude guy with a head on. Just a fully naked guy with a Barney.
Well, that line from the song now takes on a whole new meaning. A dinosaur from your imagination.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, I really felt like I grew up with you guys. So when Stu Scott passed away, that really like affected me, you know. I know that was a strange transition. We're talking from Barney the throbbing cock dinosaur to my childhood, but no.
But you sold it. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I remember like even his SB speech. I was like, God damn, that was like one of the first deaths. Like we talked about Phil Hartman.
Celebrity death, yeah.
Phil Hartman and Stuart Scott were like two of the celebrity deaths in my mind that I was like, wow, that really messed me up.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'll tell you, I don't know if it's a great story, but it's a story that I remember. Like, we used to do this thing called ESPN The Weekend down in Orlando. We go over and take over Walt Disney World, do all that kind of stuff. Well, for whatever reason, I went down a day early and Stu went down a day early. And we were like, hey, we got nothing to do. Let's go play golf. So we get in a golf cart, go to one of the Disney courses. And, you know, we're not good golfers. We're just sort of, I mean, I've gotten better as the years go on, but we were both pretty terrible. But we were the only ones there. We were having a blast. You know, we had a few cocktails. Shocker. Sure. And we're just having a great time. And, you know, when we did our shows and we came back to Bristol, I saw him like the next week in the hall, and we were both like, and that was so much fun. Let's do that again. Absolutely. And then, you know, he got busy and I got busy and we never did it again. And every year when Stuart's death, the anniversary of his death comes around, that's the first thing I think of is like that, God damn it, we always said we were going to do it again, and we never did. So, like, take the time to do that shit. You know what I mean? When you have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff, do it, because you never know. Like, none of us are guaranteed anything. And I would give a lot to have another day on the golf course with Stu like that. And we weren't like, I want to be clear, we weren't like best friends. We were just friendly.
Right.
And we had a great time. You know, we did shows together every once in a while, and it was great. I would give a lot to have another round with Stu, and we got too busy with crap, and it got in the way. So my life lesson there was when you have time to do something, do it, because you won't regret it.
Totally. Yeah. And what was really inspiring about Stu's, like, it was like when he was fighting cancer, it was like, I still remember the story that I think that it was either you guys or somebody else did, where he was just like, I don't even want to know. I'm going about life. I'm going to attack it. And that was so inspiring to me, because it was like, you know, I'm in college at the time, and every little bullshit thing that happens to you, you're like, oh, I'm hungover. There goes today. And it's like, here's somebody who's just like, I don't want to know what's going on. I'm fighting this disease. And he was just, you know, he was like in better shape, you know, at the end of his life than I am now. You know what I mean? It's like, you just see a guy doing like karate and shit. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I need to get it together.
You know, it's interesting. Like he would say, I'll talk to you about anything. I just don't want to talk about the cancer. Like you know, I have to deal with that all the time. So I deal that with my family. I deal that with my doctors. So let's talk about anything else. I'll talk about anything else. I'll do anything else you want to do. I don't want, and you know, at first I thought it was weird, but then I'm like, I totally get where he's coming from, because that's probably dominating every part of his life, and everything that he does is now affected by that. So he's like, if I can get away from that, fine. And in retrospect, in hindsight, I thought it was an awesome strategy.
Totally. Was there anyone when you first got to ESPN that you felt like kind of took you under their wing, like be it on air or off air? Like, what was that like?
Honestly, most people were great. Although I got to tell you, I came in with a little target on my back.
Oh, I love that.
Well, so, as I got the gig and I was going to go up, I still have a few months left on my contract in St. Louis. So the local media writer said, hey, I'd like to do a story about you. And I said, sure. So the first question he said to me was, so as the new guy, are you going to have to get Dan Patrick his coffee every day? Like, as a joke. And I shot back, well, I hope I don't be the towel boy or anything like that. And then we went into this long, extensive interview about this and what I want to accomplish. And the headline was, Wingo heads to ESPN News, doesn't want to be towel boy. And I'm like, could not have taken that more out of context. Like, you started this interview with a joke, and I responded with a joke, and you just freaking burned me. So, there were a couple of guys that I'd worked with before in other places, and they called me and said, man, you people are furious. You got to be like, what? What did I do? So, yeah, that was a fun hurdle to overcome. Thanks. I won't say his name, Dan Caesar of the St. Louis Post. Safe to say he didn't do a lot of articles with him anymore.
Hilarious.
Who are sportscasters that you looked up to? Like, we talked about Pat Summerall earlier. Like, who are guys that you're like, that's my dude?
Look, obviously, Dan and Keith, when they were on the Big Show, were amazing. Boom, because he was a football guy, and the same way you guys love basketball, I love football. Like, it's always been my jam. It's been my favorite thing. So Boom was just awesome. And there was another guy who who never worked at ESPN that I respected a lot. Is Bob Costas, who was at NBC for a ton of years, and he was in St. Louis at the time I was there, so I got to see and talk to him a lot, and I really respected him. And on the same way, Joe Buck. People hate Joe Buck for stupid reasons. He's the best. Like, he's
Artie
the
Lang,
best.
I love Artie Lang. He's my buddy. He did Joe dirty on that first. That pilot.
Absolutely.
Confirmed. But Joe, I think is tremendous, and I think he's done an amazing job. But yeah, Bob and Boomer. Like, when I was a kid, Sam, you guys might. Do you remember Warner Wolf?
I don't.
Who was at CBS in New York forever. He was the first guy that said, let's go to the videotape. And he would he was the first guy that really introduced highlights anywhere. Warner Wolf. He was at CBS, Channel 2, and ABC in New York forever. And I as a kid in high school, I thought he was freaking hilarious. So, those were the guys. But Pat Summerall, the Pat Summeralls of the world was just like, if you listen to a game with Pat Summerall calling the game, as opposed to the way most people do it now, here would be Pat Summerall calling a football game. 3rd and 7. Montana, back. Rice, over the middle. Touchdown. There wasn't a lot. He had that great voice, and he sort of let it just based for a while. And it was amazing. And then he got paired with Madden, and he was doing his thing, and Matt was like, "Oh, holy cow, wham, boom, bang!" And the two of them together they were great. They were so much fun.
They were the
best.
Were
classic.
And
then Dennis Miller came in, and we were like, "Fuck, am I studying for my SATs? What is going on? This is a lot."
Yeah, and then Al Michaels, obviously, still the greatest call of all time, 1980. U.S. Olympic hockey team. Do you believe in miracles? I mean, that was Al still. I mean, Al is still cranking it, man. So he has my ultimate respect.
Do you remember when Eminem was on Monday Night Football and he was like starstruck? It was such an odd moment of like two worlds colliding. We were like, oh, I didn't know Eminem would be like, frozen in front of Al Michaels. I love Al Michaels. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, that was. There are many strange things that have happened in the Monday Night booth. There's no question. I mean, like the world found out John Lennon had been assassinated through the Monday Night booth.
Wow!
Yeah,
holy shit!
They broke the news. I think John Smith was the Patriots kicker lining up for a field goal, and like Howard Cosell broke the news.
Wow!
On Monday Night Football. Yeah,
insanity.
Damn. That's so. Who's the? I see you post about Larry Fitzgerald all the time. He seems like a good dude. Is he kind of?
No, he's awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. Like when you get to be a parent, if someone treats your kids cool, like that's automatic respect. Like every time I would do something with Larry, the first thing he'd say is, "Hey, how's your son doing? How's Chappie doing?" So that always means a lot. But he's just a great guy. Like, true story. I went out there in 2012. We're gonna do a ad commercial shoot for Champ Sports or something like that. He's like, "So where are you staying?" He's like, "Well, I'm at this hotel." He's like, "What are you doing for dinner?" I'm like, "I'm just gonna hang out in my room." No. You're coming to my house. So instead of making sure I was going to eat alone, like in the hotel room at the airport in Phoenix.
Of course.
He brought me to his house. He had a chef cook an entire meal.
Wow.
He's like, "You good? Can I get you anything else?" I'm like, "Larry, I'm good. I appreciate it." He was like, You're not eating alone in a hotel. You're coming to my house." So yeah, and there's so many of those guys, right? Like Peyton Manning the same way. Like my son idolized Peyton Manning. He just loved him. And every time I would do something with Peyton, the first thing he'd say is, "Is Chap doing all right? Is he doing okay?" So those kind of stories are freaking great. They're just great. But I'll tell you this, there's so many more of those guys than the other kind of guys. Richard Sherman, the same way. J.J. Watt, the same way. There's so many great dudes that are just that, it's like I compare a lot of people thinking about their favorite athletes to like you seeing a teacher when you're in school. Like if you're like your fourth grade teacher, if you see her out at a restaurant somewhere,
right.
You're like, "What are you doing here?
Right.
You live at the school."
Right.
You don't have a life. You're not a real human. And I think so many people look at their favorite athletes the same way. It's like, you're only supposed to be here. I can't see you there.
Yeah, of
and
course.
sometimes it takes them a while to get used to that.
In my defense, seeing MJ play baseball, you're like, "What are you doing here?" And it was one. That's the one time. Other than that,
yeah. Well, he was working through a lot. There was
Totally.
a lot going on in his life at the moment.
100%.
No, being that good, you need to drain it somehow. Like some athletes do one thing. He had to change sports. I can't imagine being that good at something. Yeah, that must take a toll.
Can I tell you my one great Michael Jordan story? I only
Please,
have one.
Of course.
It's not really great. I mean, it was great for me. Nobody else probably cares.
Yeah.
It was the 2003 NBA All-Star game, and I was down there covering the game. And I just we were at the Ritz-Carlton downtown in Atlanta, and I walked in. I was going to have lunch with Stewart, and Tiger Woods was there. I was like, okay. So it's me, Stewart, and Tiger. I tried to be so cool because, like, to me, like, I'm a big golf guy now, and the things that Tiger was doing at that time, like humans should not be allowed to do, much in the same way Jordan.
And how good he was doing, and what he was doing on the course too was really impressive.
Speaking specifically on the course, focusing, staying on track. So, I tried to be so good. I was like, he goes, "Hey, Trey," like, "Hey, what's up, Tiger? How you doing?" So I was freaking out that I just had this experience. So I'm racing to the elevator to call my dad. And so I'm calling my dad to tell him, and the elevator door opens, and I walk in, which, elevator policy error 101. You wait till the people come out. So I didn't even look. I walk in, I ran into this guy, and he goes, "Wingo, watch where you're going." I look, I'm like, "Oh, sorry, Michael, my bad."
Oh my
God. So in like a minute and a half, I went from Tiger to MJ. And I'm like, "I'm good." I'm like, "Kill me.
From goat to goat." Wow.
And he knew your name. That's fucking cool, man.
That was the best part. Like if he just said, "Hey, fool, watch where you're going," it would have been good enough, right? That would have been enough. But he said, "Wingo, watch what you're doing." My bad, dude. Sorry. It's on me. It's on me.
MJ's so competitive. If you talk back in any way, you could have had a war for a lifetime. But
I probably would have been left in a puddle in the elevator.
That's great. So now, look, you mentioned all those great guys. How about the other guys, man? Give us some dirt, some little. No, you can't do it. You can't do it. Got to get the podcast off the ground first.
Not
my style. Not my style. Look, there are all kinds of people in the world, so we celebrate the good ones. That's the way I do it.
I love it.
Tiger and Michael in the same day is pretty.
It's pretty good, man. That's a good day. It's been shit since then. No, I'm kidding. It's been wonderful.
Any other?
That was it.
Any run-ins with Kobe?
Not really, because right after that, I went and did NFL Live. And so, I was for 15 years, it was basically strictly NFL after that, with occasional like other stuff. Like I would do, golf events and tennis events. I mean, how unusual for a guy from Greenwich to do golf and tennis. But no, not a lot of that. Although I got to tell you, as a Knicks fan, I got to tell you this, like before I got an on-air job, my literal first job in television, any way you want to slice it, I was a page at NBC in the 80s. The guys that wear the blue blazer and all that kind of stuff, and give guided tours of the building.
You were Kenneth Parcell.
Correct. That's exactly right. That's exactly who it was.
I love it.
And my first job was selling memorabilia in the little store at 30 Rock, which is now this huge big thing. It used to be a closet, and it was just I got the job like right after Halloween, and so from that day on through like Christmas Day, we were in that little closet every day selling like Golden Girls coffee mugs, Alf dolls, you know, like Today Show T-shirts, all that kind of stuff. But one of the coolest perks of being a page is that every once in a while you got to work on Saturday Night Live. Whoa. And if you worked on Saturday Night Live, you got to go to the cast party.
Wow.
So, you know, Marv Albert was doing Knicks games at that time. And do you remember Pat Cummings?
I don't remember Pat
Cummings. Center Pat Cummings, big, tall dude, Pat Cummings.
I remember Terry Cummings. I don't remember Pat.
No, Pat Cummings. So anyway, Pat was your pedestrian, you know, 10-year NBA guy that, you know, 4 points, 2 rebounds, whatever, but he hung around forever. And whenever he would score a bucket, Marv Albert would be surprised. It would sound like, Pat Cummings. You know? How did that happen? You know what I mean? So one night I'm working, because I worked Saturday Night Live, I got to go, and I was going to be security for the cast party. So it was my job outside to stand outside and let people in who are allowed to be in and not be allowed to be in. And it was me and one other guy. And sure enough, who comes running up but Pat Cummings? And I look at the other guy and he walks by and I just go, Pat Cummings. It was so surprising. But like Rick Ocasek was in that party.
Oh,
and
wow.
The Cars lead singer. It was nuts. And those Saturday Night Live parties, man, they will mess you up, right? Because the show ends at 1 o'clock, right? So everybody doesn't really get off the stage because they're doing the hugging and the waves and all kind of stuff till about 1:20, 1:30. Then they go to their freaking, you know, dressing rooms and power down for a second. Then they go to the cast party. So you don't get to the cast party until like 2:30 at the earliest.
Right.
And it doesn't really start picking up till 3:30, you know? Yeah. So by the time it's time to go, like if it's an indoor thing, you'd walk out and you'd be like, oh my God, the sun, what is this? You know,
100%.
It would take you like 4 days to get back on a regular rotation after working the cast party at SNL. It took something out of you, man.
Who do you remember from that cast? Do you remember run-ins? It was Phil Hartman, John Lovitz.
Phil Hartman, John Lovitz, Kevin Nealon, Dana Carvey.
Oh my God.
Jan Hooks.
Wow. R.I.P. She was great.
It was, yeah. What's the blonde that went crazy? What
Victoria
was her
Jackson.
name? Yes, Victoria Jackson. You knew right away once I said crazy.
Oh, I mean, yeah. He was one of those, when I heard reviews, I was like, ooh, you need to stick to characters.
Yeah.
That was what you do.
It was a pretty good cast. I mean, that was full, like, church lady days. And,
dude, Dana Carvey is, he might be on my Mount Rushmore for SNL. I loved him, man.
Really, really good. And, you know, John Lovitz was his acting character. What was that?
Acting.
He was that Master Thespian. Acting.
Yeah.
Thespian. And Kevin Nealon was doing that stream of conscious stuff where he would start and pause and people would yell things out in the audience. He would pick that up and move it on and go with it. So yeah, it was fun.
I remember Kevin Nealon once brought me on stage at the Comedy Store, and he was like, "Wait, who's next?" And the waitress told him, and he goes, "Who?" and as I go to shake his hand, he looked at me. He's like, "Oh, I know that guy. I'd opened for him a couple of times." Like, shit. All right, I know that guy. Ever since, he's very friendly, but I was like humiliated. We've worked together. You gave me a tag. You were very nice.
What's his name? No, that was fun though. That was a fun time. Like you're 22 years old and you're doing that kind of stuff. It was a good time. Like being a page was like the best like co-ed fraternity of all time. It was like 50 kids all right out of school, and we're just trying to figure out a way to to find a way to make it somehow, some way in the business. So that was a lot. It was crazy at the time. You're like, God, this is terrible. But you look back at it now, and it's like that was a really fun time in your life.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was just watching The Crown, which you turned me on to, and I'm almost done with season.
Good show, right?
Dude, you turned me on to it. You told me I got the highest praise that you were watching my special instead of more Crown episodes. And,
we're mixing it up. We're going highbrow, lowbrow.
Wait, which one is which? No, sure. No, but dude, I'll tell you, there was one line in the JFK episode when she said, "Well, you think unhappiness, you think you're unhappy, and then something worse happens, and you realize you were happy." And I was like, "Ooh, that guts you." Great show.
Yeah, the Crown, like it's like people would say, "Oh, it's so boring." It's good, man. It's got all levels. I mean, The Crown is really incredible.
I'm trying to get Stavi on it right now. I love.
Who knows? We'll see.
Thomas. Yeah.
I've been rewatching John Wick and getting real stoned. So that's I've been falling asleep. I've been making the mistake of trying to watch Hong Kong mafia movies, but I'm too high to read, so I'll just take a nap in the middle of it. So I have not. Maybe I'll do
John Wick,
The
Crown, same thing. Honestly, if you think about it, the motifs probably play out the same way.
That's right. Yeah, the British royal family has killed more people than John Wick. At least that there's that difference there.
We are moving on. I am dodging landmines over here.
I love it. You're doing great. That's my job here. Anyway, I'm also fascinated though about from going from a page, I was, doing a little research, Wikipedia, and I'm just fascinated at what it takes. Cause we know what it takes to be like a stand-up, right? Like everybody wants to be, everyone sees you on stage and they're like, oh, that must've been fucking fun. But you don't know about spending your 20s doing open mics at a fish restaurant or something. You know what I mean? Like
McDoobies.
Yeah, McGoobies, that's right. Yeah.
Trey, I was there like a month and a half ago.
Yeah, we both played it last month.
It's actually a very good club, but
it just seemed like an easy joke. I went with it. I apologize.
No, you're right. It's just we have
my business the next time I'm there. I promise.
That's right.
If you're just hanging out in Timonia, Maryland,
right.
I'm sure I'll see you there, Trey.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, right? Because you're asking about what it took. My first job was in Binghamton, New York, and
wow,
it was rough. Like we had 6 people in the newsroom. I had to shoot all my own stuff, write all my own stuff, edit all my own stuff, which is cool. It actually helped me. We didn't even have a teleprompter.
Wow.
It was terrifying every night to go up there, but it actually helped me in the long run because you realize, okay, you got to find a way to get through this. But the quality of the station was so bad, I couldn't even send out a tape without people going, I can't get through this. This is terrible. I got on a bus after being in a year and a half in Binghamton and not going anywhere to travel to Salisbury, Maryland. You mentioned.
Oh, yeah,
Maryland,
of
right?
course. Salisbury.
So Salisbury had a better station than a guy that used to work at our place.
Oof.
And I'm taking a bus from Binghamton to Salisbury, Maryland, just so I can get a quality tape out to try and get another job.
Insane.
And my friends at this point are we're 3 or 4 years out of college. They're, either lawyers or in law school or, medical school or, doing all this kind of, I'm like, the frick am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
I'm on a bus from Binghamton, New York to Salisbury, Maryland to hopefully get a job in, Waxahachie, Texas.
Yeah.
There was some serious soul searching going on. So to your point, I mean, it's like trying to make it in Major League Baseball, not being a bonus baby in the first round. You start out at AA, or single A, then you go to AA, then you go to AAA. So I was in Binghamton, New York for 2.5 years, got fired from that job.
Wow. What do you do to get fired in Binghamton?
Trust the wrong person is the short answer. But I told them, look, I didn't want to. I got a job offer in Connecticut at a station in Connecticut, and I'm from Connecticut. I told my news director, listen, I'm going to take the day because I want to do this interview. She goes, I'll cover for you. Don't worry about it. It was on a Friday. Great. So I come back to work on Monday, and she is not looking at me. She's like,
oh, no.
Whoa. I'm like, what's the problem? She goes, the general manager wants to see you. I'm like, okay. So we go into the station. Totally sold me out.
Wow.
Like, so I heard you went for a job interview, and I'm looking at her like, I could open my mouth right now, and you'd lose your job too.
Right.
But I didn't because I didn't want to be that guy.
Sure.
So I ate it. And so that's how I got fired from that job.
Damn.
Wow.
And
honorable.
Yeah, it was.
And then you got to move on to what, Allentown? I was looking at. Yeah.
Yes. But the caveat there, which was great, was I got to do some play-by-play for Lehigh University football
cool.
and basketball. So that was fun, right? I got to do play-by-play, which was great. But I was only in Allentown 9 months when I got the call. Like I got to Allentown in December of 1990, and by November of 91, I was in St. Louis. I got the job in St. Louis really pretty quickly. So that the Binghamton Allentown years finally paid off. So that's why literally when I first got the call from ESPN in St. Louis, I'd been there for 4 months,
I see.
The only part that bothered me about that is when the vacation schedule used to come out, it was all done on seniority. And I go to see if I'd been here in 92, I would be ahead of all you guys picking the better vacation days.
Yeah.
All you guys, I would have been ahead of you. But it worked out. Everything worked out, So
yeah. Great. Hilarious anecdote, Trey. That story was so good, it made me want to go get some high quality CBD from our friends at Cushy Dreams. What about you, Sam?
I love CBD, and I love it especially from Cushy Dreams.
That's right. One of the most high quality premier line of CBD products you can get, ships right to your motherfucking door. Whether you're in Allentown or in fucking St. Louis or Greenwich, Connecticut, you can get high quality CBD products that you smoke. Listen, these aren't gummies. What are you, a child? No, you smoke them like a man. You get lung cancer like a man.
I don't think we should put that in the ad.
The point is, whether we put it in the ad or not, what you want to do is get, and listen, they got all kinds of different strains. They got shit to make you relax. They got shit to get you on point. You know, there's hustle, there's dream, there's create. Smoke. I'm a dream guy myself.
I'm a peace guy, dude.
Peace is great. We like the calm ones here at Pod Don't Lie. And if you want to be like us and our friend Trey Wingo, who has off mic assured us he loves Cushy Dreams, Cushy Dreams, then you go to cushydreams.com. That's KUSHY dreams.com. Use promo code PODDONT, PODDONT, and get 20% off your first order. Wow. What a motherfucking steal. That's great. And Trey, if you think that's a good idea and they should do that, why don't you say something right now?
That is interesting. You bring it up, like, I mean, paying your dues and going to all these places. I mean, I love the comparison of the minors because, like, one of my favorite sports movies is Bull Durham, and just the way Kevin Costner describes the MLB. He's there for like 14 days, and he calls it the show, and he's just like, they carry your bags.
Yeah, you have white balls for batting practice. Like true story. Like in Binghamton, we had this tiny little shed with a tin roof, for lack of a better term, as a studio. Then in Allentown, the newsroom was a trailer, like behind the actual studio. It was like a trailer. So when I got to St. Louis, I was like, oh my God, it's an actual building. Like it was an actual building. Like that was a big deal. Like
we're indoors.
Indoor plumbing, windows, heat in the wintertime. It was great. I was so happy.
I love it.
Dude,
yeah.
That's wild.
That's how we're going to be when we're finally allowed to do shows again. It's like, we're indoor. We're doing stand-up comedy indoors again.
Yeah, Sam's not going to do the rooftop thing anymore. He's not going to know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's getting cold. I think we're in it for another few months. We'll see what happens. But I think we got another few months.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely hibernating through the rest of this few weeks here.
What else are you doing to just stay sane during these times, Trey?
Well, you came up and did a show this summer not too far away from where I live, and I gotta say, I feel for you guys in New York or any big city, because if I wanted to socially distance where I live, pretty easy.
Right.
Like I might run into a bear or a fox,
right,
a bobcat. But if I want to avoid people where I live, really good place to do it. So
right.
I've been playing a lot of golf, although the weather's turned, so that kind of sucks now. But I can get outside every day, and if I don't want to see somebody, I won't see them. So you guys that are doing it in New York or any big time metropolitan area, you have my respect, because the crazy's got to drive you nuts every once in a while, right?
Well, I was walking around Chelsea and I saw a bear and a fox also, so we have our share. No, look, it's hard to distance around here. It's going to be tough, I mean,
yeah.
You're not in New York City for your apartment. Most people.
Right,
no,
right.
You're out for everything else. Like literally, if I wanted to go 5 days without seeing another human, I could do it.
Yeah.
So when you grew up around, I mean, you grew up in Connecticut, and I guess you're living somewhere around there. And so, what sports wise, were you a New York teams guy, or who were your teams?
Okay, this is going to be terrible, but I have to explain this.
I already know.
Lakers, Cowboys, Yankees.
You got 2 out of 3. But
it's Cowboys.
There's an explanation.
Okay, all right.
Look, so we lived in Hong Kong for a few years because my dad was covering the Vietnam War for Life magazine. He was bureau chief.
Holy
So
shit.
in the late 60s, when I was just really young, we lived there. So we moved back to Connecticut in the early 70s after he got off that post. And my whole family's from Texas. My mom is from Texarkana. My dad's from San Antonio. I have relatives all over the state of Texas. So like one of the first things I can remember as a kid when we moved to Connecticut was turning on a Monday Night Football game and seeing the Dallas Cowboys. And my dad was like, "Hey, yeah, that's the Cowboys. They're from Texas." And I was like, "Well, that's cool. I'll be a Cowboys fan." And then they won everything. So that's sort of the background there. Yeah, but
you get a pass. You get a pass. Texas, yeah.
I am a huge Yankees fan. Like I grew up when I was a kid. Like the first baseball game I ever went to was at Shea Stadium. I remember. Here's what I remember about that, which is crazy. It was against the Astros, and it was the Mets against the Astros, and the left fielder in that game was Bob Watson, who eventually became the general manager of the Yankees when they won the World Series in '96. All those years later.
One of the best series of all time. We talk about that Jim Larratt series on this podcast before.
Jim Larratt, man.
I'm a Yankees fan too. So
here's one of the great nuggets about that Yankees. They lost the first 2 games of that series.
I remember
and
Fred
then won
McGriff.
the next. Yeah. They won the next 3. They won the 4 straight in that series, and then the next 2 they swept them. I think they won like 15 straight World Series games after that.
Dude, it was.
But anyway,
it was Wetland and Mariano back to back.
Well, no.
Mariano.
Here's the best part. Yeah, no. Wetland was the guy, and then he left in free agency, and the big concern was, Jesus, who's going to replace John Wetland? I think we're good. But I became a Yankees fan like in the early 70s because that team was so much fun with Mickey Rivers, and Reggie showed up, Thurman Munson, Chris Chambliss, Craig Nettles, Ron Guidry, Sparky Lyle. That team was so much fun. Goose Gossage, my God, that team was great. So that was the Yankee team that made me a Yankees fan. And then, you had to suffer through the 80s where nothing good happened for the Yankees except for Dave Winfield coming. One of my favorite New York Post headlines of all time was a great I got to tell you this story now. We had
Please.
My wife and I had the same night we had an opportunity. We had tickets to 2 different things. You're going to die laughing. One of them was a Yankees game in 1987 when the Yankees were terrible. The other one was tickets in Hartford to see the Joshua Tree concert for U2. We chose the Yankee game.
Wow.
We chose the Yankee game.
I feel like you could have gotten Yankee tickets the next day in the 80s.
Absolutely. It was the dumbest decision of all time, but we did it because of Don Mattingly.
I love Don Mattingly.
Like for 4 straight years, he did something that had never been happened before. He had the most doubles in Yankee history. He hit a home run in 8 straight games. Right. Every year he did something ridiculous.
He deserved a ring.
That was
sucked. It sucked.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe we don't win without Tino, but I mean,
by 1 year. By 1 year.
Tino
his last year was 95.
Tino,
he was incredible.
Yeah,
he was incredible.
You ever with Tino?
No. Well, actually, I ran into him. I actually ran into Tino at a Super Bowl party. I want to say in Jacksonville, maybe it was the last one in San Diego. Right, he just left and he was going to join the Cardinals, whatever year that was. It was 2004, I think. He was going to join the Cardinals. And I just come from St. Louis. I was telling him, look, I'm a huge Yankees fan. Jeter was at that party. Shocker. And Jeter and Tino were at a table, and I just had to come up and say, loved you guys, all that kind of stuff. Tino, I know it sucks that you're leaving the Yankees, but you're going to a good place with the Cardinals. You'll love it. It's a great baseball town. So that was my one sort of interaction with Tino. It was fun.
And then so football, baseball. Were you a basketball guy at all growing up, or I mean,
the Knicks? Yeah, the Knicks of the '70s were one of my favorite. John Gianelli, Phil, Earl Monroe, all those guys were absolutely great. They were just a lot of fun. But then, like in the early '80s, one of my favorite teams of all time was the early '80s Sixers. Right, Andrew Toney, Mo Cheeks, Caldwell Jones, Bobby Jones. They get Dawkins to come over. Charles Barkley's drafted. Those '80s Sixers might be one of my favorite teams in any sport of all time. They were loaded. They had so much fun. Mark Ivoroni. Those teams, those '80s Sixers teams were one of my favorite, not only basketball teams, favorite professional sports teams of all time. They were just great.
Incredibly cool. Young Barkley it's so funny to just watch him just watch like young Barkley highlights, and then you see
Zion.
watch him play golf. Yeah, it's really Zion's Barkley 2.0 for sure.
Yeah.
Greatest story, one of the greatest stories ever was Sports Illustrated was doing a piece on the '84 Olympic team, which was, before we had pros, that was the original dream team. It had Ewing, it had so many. Jordan was on that team.
Yep.
Sam Perkins was on that team. Wayman Tisdale was on that team.
Wow.
There were so many great players.
Yeah.
Barkley didn't make the team. His nickname at Auburn was Barkley didn't make the team. His nickname was the bread truck. Dude. And there was a quote from one NBA scout when they did an article on that team. And I'll never forget this. The line was, "If they cut the bread truck, I'm pulling for the Russians."
Whoa! Oh my God,
that's great.
Who are your
that's
favorite?
great.
Who are your favorite NBA players other than like ever to watch? Who are your guys?
Barkley was great, man. I mean, he gave 0 Fs. You know what I mean? Like, he choked out an Angolan in the 1992 Olympics. He did not care.
Yeah,
he did not care.
I mean, him just walking around Barcelona is still one of the funniest anecdotes. It's like you're the one of the most famous teams of all time. Clearly, you're a giant black dude in the middle of Barcelona. It's like everyone knows who you are. He doesn't care. He's out there just getting wasted. It's great.
He had 0 Fs left to give at that point because he was ring chasing and all that kind of stuff. He's one of my all-time favorites. Look, Jordan is Jordan. I mean, like. Yeah, it's funny when the Last Dance documentary came out. Like, my son is 25. He's a huge LeBron guy, and he should be. LeBron's amazing, but he watched Jordan for the first time in that way. He just seen the stories and heard this kind of stuff, and he's like, "Dad, that Jordan guy was pretty good." I'm like, "Oh, shit." I've been trying to tell you that for years. But there's actually one of my favorite Jordan moments of all time. Sports Illustrated used to get you these videotapes if you bought the magazine. You got a subscription to the magazine. One of them was Michael Jordan Come Fly With Me. And you can still find this on YouTube. Like, Michael Jordan is his rookie or second year, I can't remember. They're playing Utah. And he dunked over John Stockton, who was, 6 feet 0.5. You know what I mean? So He just dunked right over him. And there was a fan yelling on the sidelines, "Hey, pick on someone your own size." The next time down the floor, Jordan goes up and dunks on Mel Turpin, who was 7'3". And he turns to the fan, and they have it on the video. They turn to the fan, and you can see Jordan say, "Was he big enough?" It's one of the greatest clips of all time, and it's still on YouTube. You could see Jordan go, "Was he big enough?" I was like, that's my guy.
Amazing. That's a maniac. 100%. Yeah. And The Last Dance was really great. I mean, I was like in that in between generation where it's like my big memory is literally Space Jam. Like, I had, I have the Space Jam. If you didn't have the Space Jam binder in 3rd grade, you were a loser. Forget about it. I had my mom going all over the suburbs looking for that one. But so I remember the tail end, and I remember him very vividly as a Wizard because I'm in Baltimore, so we get the DC. We're in the DC market theoretically, so I watched all those games, but. And, obviously I'm aware I'm a big basketball guy, but I mean, it really is. It was such an incredible, just almost marketing idea for his legacy to have to do that. I mean, because you're right. Kids like your son, it's like that being just a little younger than me, I could see how you totally miss it. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the day he agreed to do it was after LeBron comes back from down 3-1 against the Warriors, where it was like that was after that. Jordan's like, yeah, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah. But here's what's interesting about that, right? Like no one to me will ever have the killer instinct like Jordan. Like,
never.
Listen, I'm doing it. Okay, we're gonna make it happen.
Right.
But here's where you have to give LeBron credit, because he's won 4 now with 3 different franchises, right? Mm-hmm. That's hard to do. That's not easy.
And
like,
the mileage legs.
Yes. Well. Like for example, you're a good NFL cornerback if you travel, right? Like, the scheme isn't, well, you'll be on this side. If you're a true number 1 corner, where's the number 1 guy on the other? I'm traveling with you. My game travels. Like, I will go to where you are. Peyton Manning, when he left the Colts, he goes to the Broncos, throws 55 touchdown passes in a year, breaks the record. Peyton Manning was going to be Peyton Manning wherever he went. You know what I mean? That was not going to change.
True.
For LeBron to do what he did in Miami, go back to Cleveland, do it in Cleveland, and then go to the Lakers. And you could say, oh, he got Anthony. Yeah, but you know what? That's 2. Like, Jordan never did it without Pippen. You know what I mean? And the thing that's the most amazing about LeBron to me is it's just a different era. Like, there is not. He'll be one of the top 3 scorers of all time before it's all said and done.
He might
There's
be
not another
1.
guy in the. Yeah, there's not a top scorer that's within the top 40 of assists outside of LeBron James, who's in the top 10 in assists.
Right.
And people always say, well, you should always take the last shot. Well, hold on. Bulls won 2 championships with John Paxson and Steve Kerr taking the last shot in a game that won him a championship. So it's not like that doesn't happen. It's just LeBron does it differently. And for some people who have seen Jordan, his ability or desire to get more people involved just doesn't jive with the way they think the greatest should do it. That's all it is.
Right. That's very well said, because they have the archetype of what the greatest means. Whereas, like, if you look at LeBron, it's like, I mean, you know, you want to talk about your game traveling. It's like, yeah, look at these franchises when he leaves. I mean, it's like, it's crazy. I mean, the Cavs.
Boy, Cleveland is like homeless. There's like,
yeah.
But LeBron, who do you think is number 2 after LeBron? Do you take KD? Do you take the Greek Freak? Do you take, oh,
you mean right now?
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard.
Listen, Kawhi had a chance, by the way. If they had gotten it together, he would have won 4 with 3 different teams too. You know what I mean? And I think that his run with the Maple Leafs, Jesus, with the Raptors, is
he dipped
totally
in the hockey for a
underappreciated.
minute, and it was pretty impressive.
He was great on PK, which I was really good on the penalty kill. But like, I think that we sort of slough off Kawhi because it was Canada. It's like, okay, whatever. It was 1 year rental. It was Canada. What he did was ridiculous that year. It was absolutely insane. And yeah, I got it. KD got hurt and Steph got hurt. But, that happens every year. Chris Paul and the Rockets got beat up and they couldn't close out the Warriors in Game 6 or Game 7. So I think right now, I think I'd have to put Giannis second because he's younger, right? I mean, I don't know what KD's going to be coming back. Like, we may never see peak Klay Thompson again. Achilles after an ACL, that's hard, man.
I'm rooting.
I hope it's not.
The Achilles is brutal, man. The Achilles is brutal.
So I'm hoping Kevin Durant comes back and is great, but that's going to be a question mark for me until I see it, right? So I think I'd have to put Giannis there right now.
Yeah,
that makes Stav very happy. If you can,
yeah, Greek, of course. I root for
that. Had no part of it. 0.
Yeah. That's right. We'll have some baklava sent to your home real soon, Trey. Thank you very much.
Put it right next to the Maker's Mark. It'll be
that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's interesting. I think, I'd like to believe that. I'm nervous for Giannis. Just speaking solely as just a Greek partisan here. I didn't really love how the Bucks botched the Bogdanovich thing, but anyway, we'll see. I believe in him, obviously, and I'm rooting for him, and I like hearing you say he's the second best, even though I can't allow myself to believe that yet. But
there's not a weakness in his game. He just needs more help around him,
Yeah, for sure. Especially if we just admit everyone got so in love with shooting that if somebody doesn't shoot, they're like, well, that's a big glaring hole. Where it's like, the guy's a fucking big. Like, why does he have to? I mean, he's just give him a point guard.
But then he did it.
Give him a point guard.
But then he did it. Yeah, but then he did it. I mean, this year he got the range. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, because the problem with Giannis is the way the game is played right now. I mean, like, you can be a big, that's great, but most people will trade threes for 2. We'll jack up more threes and we'll hit more of those than you will on your easy, 2-step drops and a dream shake or whatever you want to do. It's simple math for these guys. We're just going to fill it up from the outside. The game is so different. It's like when people always say, who would win between the Warriors and the Bulls in the 90s? I'm like, well, what rules are you playing by?
Right.
Tell me.
It's hand checks are taking the Bulls.
Well, because hand checks turn into full body shakes, with the way they played in the your favorite Knick team. They to beat you up and then they'd score. All right, we're going to pound you with a tire iron and then we'll make some layups.
Yeah, I'd love to see them versus the Warriors. Just crushing them.
The other part for the Warriors was when they were in their peak, you can't hit what you can't catch. And those guys were flying around the court,
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Yankees team of all time? Is it 96 or is it the 70s guys you mentioned?
Well, the 70s guys were great, but like that team in the late 90s was just freaking incredible. Like I said, like they lost the first 2 games to the Braves. They won the next 4 in 96. And then they obviously missed out in 97 when Rivera did the one thing.
The whole run is fraudulent. The whole run is fraudulent. They were
the
Orioles were cheated. the ALCS, the whole dynasty hinges on one piece of shit taking a ball out of our hands. So I can't even hear it. Okay. The whole thing deserves an asterisk as far as I'm concerned.
Then the entire Patriots run deserves an asterisk because of the tuck rule.
I'm with you there. As a Baltimore fan, I'm with you on both.
How about the great managerial skills to put Brady Anderson in the leadoff spot, hitting 50 home runs? Very smart.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
That team, like you just knew they were going to win. Like it was fun. Just watch, like Derek Jeter's numbers in the postseason are essentially a full season, right? I think he had played 160 or 161 postseason games. He hit 3-something. He had 97. I mean, Derek Jeter's postseason would be Derek Jeter's regular season, and that's the most amazing thing about him, because we all know it's so much harder to hit and hit well with consistency in the postseason because you're getting the best pitchers, and he did it. People want to make fun of Derek because he wasn't this or he wasn't that, and maybe his range was limited. All that, fine. You want to do that, I grant you. But who always made the big play? Who always came up when he had to, and my God, his last at bat in the major leagues was a walk-off single. I'm sorry, that's it. We're ending the discussion right there. The play against freaking young Giambi was at Stairs at the plate in Oakland. Mm-hmm. No one else is making that play. No one else is going to think to run down and do that. He just freaking did it,
Yes.
And he inspired others to do it. One of my favorite lines was about the 2001 World Series where nothing was going right, and he said, just wait. Those ghosts around here will wake up one of these days. Boom, Scott Brocious, home run. Yeah. Where's that coming from? You know what I mean?
Brocious was money, dude. I loved him in the corner.
You can make any argument you want against him. I'll go with the fact that when it mattered most for one of the greatest dynasties of all time, he came through time and time again.
Same with
That's
Bernie
enough
Williams,
for me.
dude. Bernie Williams was cash money
absolutely
in the playoffs every year. I mean, just a ton of rinky-dink guys too, like Knobloch would come alive, in the World Series against the Padres. I remember he had that big home
Shane
run.
Spencer contributed. You know what I mean?
Incredible. And let's not forget Jeter, an incredible GM, just as good, in the front office.
Well, he did have other skills.
That's true. I do have to respect him for those abilities. As much as I despise him on the field.
How many GMs pulled prime Mariah Carey, Stav?
Have you guys ever
See,
ever seen
I hear Theo Epstein. What's that?
Have you guys ever seen the baseball diamond where they do by position all of Derek's?
Yeah, I have not. Homers? I got to check that out.
It's incredible. It's like, wow, third base was solid.
Legend.
I love it.
So it's Dallas, it's Yankees, and basketball. Yeah. You were a Knicks fan. Now it's just kind of open.
Yeah, it's kind of open. Like the Knicks of the 70s were great, on so many levels. I mean, Trent Tucker, come on, man. Who's both Bernard King was one of my favorite players of all time. Like Amazing. When he did the Texas, like he went 3 straight games and every Texas City scored 50 points. He was incredible. Gerald Wilkins, all those guys. Albert, I mean, like they were all a lot of fun. But now, I'm just sort of like, whatever. It's all good. I just enjoy watching the playoffs at this point.
This is a weird question, but whenever you're watching Monday Night Football, if you're watching any sport for that matter, are you ever watching like a young guy or something? This is not for Monday Night Football, obviously. Are you ever watching? There's like a young guy, and you're like, oh, dude, that guy's going to be good. Dude,
well, listen. 2 years ago, I tried to tell everybody that Patrick Mahomes is going to be he's going when it's all said and done, he's going to be the greatest to ever do it. I just believe that. I called the last 2 years. I've called him Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes. Like their longevity is a big part of getting into a Hall of Fame. Right? I understand that, but there are always the outliers, right? Like Gale Sayers had 3 real seasons in the NFL. He had the other 3 he limped along. He had 3 real seasons in the NFL. Ain't nobody going to tell you he wasn't one of the best to ever do it because he was that far ahead of everybody. Right. Like if Patrick Mahomes, God forbid, knock on everything you can find right now, if he gets hurt, first balloter in my mind, first ballot guy. He's doing it differently. He's doing it like and there are things he does sometimes in a game. I'm like, now you're just showing off. Like, there was a touchdown. There was a touchdown a few games ago. They were rolling to the right. And the whole Chiefs offense rolled to the right, and Kelsey stayed in the middle, and he turned around, and he underhanded it to him like a softball pitch. And he just walked in the end zone. Because nobody's expecting that. You know what I mean? And he's just learning how to play the position. Like, for example, the Super Bowl 54, was his worst game of his career until he decided it was time to win, right? He had not thrown an interception in the postseason. He threw 2 in that game, including one right around the red zone when they really needed to score. They're down 20-10. There's 7:30 to play in the game. NFL Films, by the way, is the greatest thing in the world. It's the greatest library of sports for any sports professional league we have in this country. And they have him mic'd up during the game, and he goes to the sidelines and goes to Eric Bieniemy, who's the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs. Do we have time to run WASP? And WASP is this play where it takes a long time to develop because the receiver goes out and then back in, and it's a double move, and they want to confuse the secondary. Well, the 49ers rush was getting to him. It was 3rd and 15. So he takes a 13-step drop. He walks back, and just heaves it as far as he can. It was his longest pass of the year in terms of how many yards it was in the air, and Tyreek's wide open. They score on that drive. It's a 3-point game. They score on their next drive. Ball game over. He played his worst game until he was like, shit, I think I need to win this game now.
Right.
Boom. Like, the guys that can do that are the best because you have to have a short memory. Same way with Tom Brady in Super Bowl 51. He was playing terrible. He was awful against the Falcons until Dante Hightower gets that strip sack when they're down 28-12 with 8 minutes to play. He's like, holy shit, I can win this thing now. Boom. They go down and they win it in overtime. Russell Wilson in the 2014 NFC title game against the Packers was playing terrible. He was awful. Then they get a fake field goal for a touchdown. They try the onside kick. The Packers blow it. He's like, holy shit, I can win the game. Lights out. They win it in overtime. Yeah. To me, the best guys in any sport are the guys that are just playing terrible. And then they realize, wait, we still have a chance to win? Okay, I'm good now. And they can turn it on. Holmes is that guy. Russell was that guy. Brady's that guy.
Where do you rank Russell Wilson of those guys?
You know, it's fascinating because Russell has never even gotten a single vote for MVP. I'm talking about like not one, like in 7th place.
Right.
Yeah. The Seahawks have basically just decided this year, obviously with DK Metcalf and a couple other things, Lockett from a few years ago, they finally got really good wide receivers around him, but their defense is terrible. They're just like, Russell, take us as far as you can go. I mean, they should have won back-to-back Super Bowls. This is, okay, now you're really getting into my rabbit hole of pet peeves here. Wins are not a quarterback stat, right? They're part of the process. And like I just talked about Mahomes, he did his job, but if the defense didn't get a 3 and out on that drive after they had scored, they might not have won the game, you know? So like Tom Brady gets credit for the win in Super Bowl 49, even though he threw 2 interceptions in that game and they're down 28. They're up 28-24. And if the Seahawks just give the ball to Marshawn Lynch, they probably win the game. Totally. But instead, Malcolm Butler comes up with the interception. If he doesn't go up with that interception, they're not winning the game, yet Brady gets the win. Quarterbacks play well, and they help their team win. But wins and losses are a team thing. It's not an individual accolade. That drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Certainly in football, way more. I mean, that argument, I think, makes a lot more sense in basketball where it is 5 guys. And I think one guy
you
really.
You have 2 better. Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. But in football, you got 11 guys.
No, absolutely.
You could have the greatest quarterback, but if you can't protect him, it doesn't matter. If you don't have wide receivers that can catch, what's the point? You got to have 11 guys pulling together. So that in football, it's totally different in my mind.
How about Rodgers? Where's Rodgers ranked?
Rodgers he's on the list for MVPs this year, in my opinion, right now, are Mahomes, Rodgers, Russell, and Derrick Henry, the running back for the Titans.
Yeah.
Rodgers is going to go down as a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I just wonder how much of his career was not fully executed with what they put around him. You know, they've never drafted a pick in the first round as a wide receiver. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they get one. Like, I can show you a list of first-round wide receivers that sucked, right? They've just never got through. But every once in a while, you want to take a swing with one of those guys. Like Devontae Adams is doing great. He was a second-rounder.
Yeah.
Jordy Nelson, who was his big guy forever, he wasn't a first-rounder. You just wish that they would have given him more opportunities to potentially find guys in the first round. But Rodgers is still amazing. I mean, he's absolutely amazing. Like, if you're asking me the list of top quarterbacks in the NFL right now, it's those 3 guys. And, you know, Lamar was great last year.
There we go. Let's talk about Lamar.
The offense.
Go ahead.
No,
that's what I've been with. Sam's asking about every other fucking quarterback in the league, and I'm waiting here trying to ask my Lamar question. What's going on with the Ravens? I mean, they all have COVID right now, but you were talking about where it's like everyone's turning it on, you know, talking about Mahomes, and that's what last year, the Titans game, that's what I kept waiting for. I was like, this is going to be, I believed in Lamar so much up until it was really over. I was like, he's going to fucking do it. So what do you think? I've heard some, I don't really follow the sport as closely as I used to, but obviously the Ravens, I tried to. So from an expert, what is it? What's going on there?
Well, we made a big deal out of this last year, which I thought was a mistake. Look at the balance of the Ravens offense. They rush for 230 plus yards or 212 per game. They were the first team ever to rush for 200 yards a game and throw for over 200 yards a game. And that sounds great if you're talking about the rushing statistics. But in the way the league is scheduled and legislated and refereed and designed right now, if you're throwing for 237 yards a game, you're not going to win a lot of football games. So for Lamar to be as good as I think the Ravens want him to be, they have to have a better downfield passing presence. Like you can besides the numbers any way you want to say, well, it's the at the end of the day, they're not getting enough production out of the passing game. And their running game was off the charts above the norm last year. Mm-hmm. That's going to be very hard to duplicate. And, Mark Ingram has been hurt a little bit this year, and he's not quite the banger he was last year. J.K. Dobbins has come along, but he's not on that level yet. So their running game has taken a hit, which means, okay, now we got to find more functionality in the passing game. And their throwing to the tight ends is great. But I think Hollywood Brown, the kid that they took in the first round a few years ago out of Oklahoma, has not been what they thought he was going to be. So they need to find more diversity in the passing game, more consistency in the passing game, and more chunk plays in the passing game. Like if you saw the Monday night game was week 3, right? Between between those two teams, the Ravens methodically went down the field on the first drive and I think kicked a field goal. And then the Chiefs went cool. And I think 5 plays later, they were
right.
And that's the problem with that's the problem with the way they're scheduled. They're built to sustain long drives and eventually get where they need to go. That's hard to do time and time again. They've got to find more chunk plays in the passing game. That's got to be a more consistent part of Lamar's offense. And it's not just on Lamar. It's on getting the right receivers and getting them to buy into what you need to do. And that's been the biggest problem for them.
Right. But he's younger.
It's ridiculous.
He's like, younger than Joe Burrow and already has an MVP and, so.
Correct.
All right. I'm feeling better. This year, I'm going to chalk it up to coronavirus and injuries and everything.
2020
like
sucks. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. Oh, looks like our boy Sam. Sorry, Sam's working with the worst laptop of all time. He froze, but he's back.
Okay.
And we'll
Good
wrap
thing he
it up
never
here.
froze on stage, though.
That's right.
Here, he doesn't freeze on stage.
He can freeze in the Zoom.
Freeze here.
Yes.
Freeze here.
I'm so sorry, guys.
That's all right, man. That
My
MacBook
shitty
Air.
Here's the beauty of it. Here's the beauty of it. You ready? If you hadn't said anything, nobody would have noticed.
Yeah.
For that question.
We were talking Ravens, baby.
I agree. I think Jackson does have the goods.
There you go. Perfect. Well, we don't want to keep you forever, Trey. We really appreciate you coming on.
Dude, you're such a great guest, and it's great to see you, man.
No, this is always fun, man. I love chopping it up. And Sam, of course, is going to be on a future episode of my podcast, Half Forgotten History. You can see it on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. We're also going to be on my YouTube channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sam Morrill has taught me how to use YouTube. That's the thing.
Have I?
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, dude, the show's great. I can't wait for people to see it. I'm excited you're doing it. It's an awesome next chapter you're doing. So congrats. And I think it's going to be big. It's a great concept.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Cool,
Thank you, Trey. Thanks for doing the show. And good luck with everything. And go listen to his podcast, guys.
Yeah. And listen, I swear to you, the next time we're all in Magoobies, I'm buying.
Love it.